Calling the meeting to order, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before I ask for a motion to adopt the agenda, a suggestion has been made to move number 6 to in front of between 4 and 5. It's going to be a shorter hearing, we think, and we just don't need to have those people for the signage go through the longer discussion, unless you want to stay. So, does
I'll make a motion to move the signage plan review for AMBA Holding LLC to agenda number 5, basically, and bump everything down.
Thank you. And is there a second?
A second.
Great. And any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion passes. And now can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the amended agenda.
And a second?
Second.
Great. And any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 And opposed? That motion passes. Okay. And next, we'll have the council update, please.
Good evening, Planning Commission members and audience. I'm Suzanne Urkel, the City Council Liaison. This has been kind of a slow month, but I do have a few things. We are going to be changing our notary public, our notary, approval policy here in the near future, because apparently some of our staff are not authorized to notarize certain things, excuse me, that they have been notarizing. Our Nexus program, their license has been temporarily reestablished for 6 kids. And I did a little research after the meeting, and it may or may not be a permanent thing because these kids are in a specialized program. So I'm understanding that after this program, it may not get reinstated. So we have to wait and see on that. We we are going to have a policy change on the subdivisions of properties to, right now it says one-time subdivision for the lifetime of the property, so now it's going to change to maybe every 10 years. That policy is going to be coming before us. I talked about, there's also a change in our voting. We modified it to be an 18-day early voting instead of, I don't know if it was 45 days or something like that. And we did approve our election judges for this coming election cycle. We approved the subdivision of the temple on 217th. The city is selling ads to businesses for our newsletter, so any businesses out there who are interested in advertising, it's probably a great deal compared to other advertising. We hired 2 more firefighters. It's possible, providing one of them does move into the city. Our fire department did get a CenterPoint grant, which is a great thing. Grants are always amazing. We had some dangerous dog hearings, and the owners of the latest one have come into full compliance, I understand. So I know a lot of residents have been very interested in that case. And our Anoka Blaine Airport is having their EAA, which is the Young Eagles, kids who learn about airplanes and stuff, is having their pancake breakfast on July 20th, this Saturday. So if anybody's free Saturday morning, go out and support that fundraiser. And we are looking for volunteers for Discover Aviation Days. I've got to put a plug in for that because we're trying to get this big event for June of 2027, and we can't do it with 6 people. We need like 106. So, any questions?
So with the policy on the subdivision timing, you're going to have a public hearing here then?
I presume, yes.
Okay.
All policy changes need public hearings, so it will be happening and then possibly next month. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Suzanne. Alrighty, the next item is the approval of minutes. Does anyone have any corrections? None? So-
Motion to approve.
Well, Eric, I do have a question then about line 143 and 146, where the name of the person that was presenting, was not included because his name wasn't on the roster? Or, I mean, so it's on page 4 or 5. It says Dustin stated that they are trying to create.
I'd have to find that. We can go back and watch the tape. I'm sure we would have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would have even been with the application or.
Yeah. Dustin, now I know who you're saying. Yeah, Dustin, I know
It was a long name. Yeah,
I'll reckon his last name, Kiomsky. So
Mhm.
we'll make sure that that's edited in.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes?
Thank you. And any seconds?
Second it.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So that motion passes. And the next thing we're going to do is go to this signage plan review by AMBA Holdings.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Planning Commission members for allowing the shuffle of the agenda. I just speculated this one might be a little shorter than the other one. The other one could be 3-4 hours.
Ooh. Thank
Well,
you.
maybe not. Okay, so AMBA Holdings, they are developing the multi-tenant building along 65 in a B3 zoning district. And they have the roof going up. You can see it going up now. This is Ulysses Street here. And as part of the city's zoning code for signage, when there's a multi-tenant building, the ordinance requires that the owner or applicant present a unified site plan, signage plan for your approval. So they worked with a signage firm. They are here, but I cut this out. Anyway, I'll skip the name. So from a design standpoint, they have wall signs, and there's 4 of them over there, each of the key entrances. This shows 3, and then the 4th there. The face you're looking at there faces, I believe that faces west, and then these face south. So you have those signs, and then they are also looking for a monument sign. Our ordinance is a little interesting. The city ordinance has a definition of a freestanding sign and a definition of a monument sign, but the ordinance talks about a freestanding monument sign. So you kind of got to merge a little bit of that together, and maybe that's one more edit the city will want to at least talk about. So that's in a sense what you have in option 2 from a freestanding monument sign versus a pylon sign that just doesn't have any cladding on its pole. So I mean, these are essentially the long and the short of the concepts. So I want to go back up to the size and number of signs. The B3 zoning code allows up to 4 square feet of signage per frontage foot of building. There's approximately 210 linear feet of frontage on that building. We take the west face of both sides because that abuts the primary road, Ulysses, and that's approximately 210 linear feet times 4. That nets you to 840 total square feet. And the reason for that is it scales the signage with the size of the building, so you don't have, it's a rough correlation. Also, no one sign can be over 100 square feet. I'm sorry, individual wall signs up to 200 feet in area, and they're not even getting close to that. So what we know is on their wall signs 1 through 4, that totals 84 square feet. And on the freestanding sign, in this case option 2, it's approximately 83 square feet. So the maximum size they're really proposing is about 170 total square feet, so well below the 840 they might be permitted. So it's not, certainly not undersigned, but they might have some room to go in the future. One thing to note is that they may have an additional sign because they are so close to 65. So if they wanted to come back for an additional freestanding monument sign, they could come back. They would still have to comply with the size limitation, and they certainly could do that. So again, this map shows the approximate location. I believe I have my directions wrong. The 3 signs face south and the 1 sign faces west. And the freestanding sign is near 65, but it does meet the 5-foot setback required, as that is their rear lot. So back to what you folks are tasked to consider is we don't bring to you the particular tenants in the signage because they either don't know and they'll have to work out those panels with them. If the signs they're proposing are, I can't imagine, but out of character, out of taste, we'd bring that back to you, but I've never seen that, so I'm really not worried about it. One note I sent to you folks, and it's represented here, is a change from what was originally in your packet in yellow. The limitation of height on the wall signs are limited to 24 feet in height. They cannot be taller than the lowest point of the roof. Okay, so what does that mean? In this case, they really have 3 roofs. The tall roof, which is 28 feet, and I'm not going to count the dormers, but then they have a lower gabled roof, and that's more of the primary element of the structure itself, and that's probably around 24 feet. They're at 12 feet at the eave here, so until we really know exactly where it needs to go, they're probably well within the realm of what they're seeking. 28 feet is not the correct roof to use. It's this point, and it's probably around 24 feet. So if they had to come down a foot, or maybe they can go up a foot, who knows? We'll work with the applicant on the final elevations, but this is the approximate scale. And so then back to my previous point about required cladding on a sign base, so it creates a true freestanding monument sign. In a lot of ways, a monument sign is, they're kind of low, they're typically less than 10 feet tall, but the height is equivalent to the width. Whereas a freestanding sign is, probably most of the signs that we see in our world, like the signs out there, for example, the Holiday gas station that's there, or the Quick Trip sign that's out there. So this, I think, meets the spirit of what that language is. So option 2, I think, should be added to the resolution. So With that, you don't have to have a public hearing on this. This is just your input and your direction. And staff would recommend approval just with that edit as shown.
All right. Thank you. Can we have a public hearing if the owners want to say
Well,
anything?
you can do, absolutely, you can do whatever you desire, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to open up the public hearing for the representatives from AMBA Holdings to come on up if they want to say anything. So, would you like to come up, or you're good? Yeah, good.
That check will be in the mail.
I'd like to comment, I own Village Bank right next door, I've not met these gentlemen yet.
Okay, yeah, if you could come up to
Oh, the
podium, please, and just state your name.
Don Quiton,
Okay.
and I own the Village Banks, and so he's a neighbor, and so I think he should get the same treatment when we built our bank. You need to have signage. As you mentioned, 2 gas stations, it's very important. The businesses are known. So, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. And it was Vision Sign Company, I apologize for too many pieces of paper, so.
All right, does anyone else want to speak to this issue? If not, closing the public hearing, and do any of you ladies or gentlemen want to say anything?
I think it'll look fine.
Me too.
Starting
Why were we presented with 2 options?
Well, that's up to the applicant. I think they always, maybe they're getting quotes for, I mean, maybe they're here, Eric is here, he could certainly speak to that.
Yeah, it's just options, like, it came down to, client budget.
I just was noting that option 1 looks like it would read better from a distance. That was my only comment. But it's up to the applicant.
And then, on staff, who does this go through then, kind of to make the final recommendation or approval?
If this is the final clearance point, to Commissioner Terry's, yeah, it might, and maybe they want to think about some redesign, that's up to them, but they would have to, I mean, maybe they could take the base of one and move it to the other, you know, like option 3. I mean, the city didn't say to them, show us 3 different options, this is just what they presented. I think signage is always, signage rules always vary quite a bit from city to city. But they could not do the one on the left. They could not do option 1. The option 1 and option 2 is is compliant with your rules for freestanding monument signs. But maybe they'd mix the 2 and just create the base on 1, so. But that would be up to them.
Any other questions, concerns? If not, you're okay, Christina? Okay. Are there any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve, what's the number on it? The signage plan for AMBA Holdings with conditions listed.
Commissioner Jorgensen, I did put it into a resolution 2608, if you're comfortable with that.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second?
I second that, and that does include with the final height, correct?
Yes.
I second.
All righty. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So that motion passes. So that's a recommendation for approving the comprehensive sign plan for AMBA Holdings. And will that go to the city council then?
Madam Chair, no, they, if they came in tomorrow for a building permit for these signs, I could grant the permit. It allows the city planning commission to be the clearinghouse
Great,
for it, so,
Perfect.
so.
fantastic. Okay. The next item is a consideration of a concept plan. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, let's see.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you again for taking the time to review these things from the applicant. So I probably got a lot to go through, and I'm probably going to jump around a little bit with some of the drawings and some of the maps, but if I'm moving too fast or you want me to go back, certainly say so, because I probably need to do that too. So there's some things that we got to get through. It's a little unique of a project, so it's not quite so straightforward. It's a good project, but it's just not quite so simple. Anyway, final approach development concept plan review. It's a multi-tenant, light industrial, commercial proposal, obviously before you tonight. So the property I'll show you here in a minute is Outlot B of a current PUD known as a Sauter District. The land is guided mixed use, and that's in your comp plan. The current zoning is highway commercial B3. It certainly lies west of 65 and south of 185th Street. So this is the site. It's kind of in the yellow shaded area. The movie theater is here. The Holiday gas station is there. These are two apartment complexes, and most of the land to the north in this vicinity are industrial sites. So that kind of tells you the context of where it is. Briefly, the concept plat. We're not at a platting stage. Again, this is all concept. Again, these are the two apartment complexes, and they're not asking for, nor are we seeking to get blessing on this exact layout. Rather, how this land might be envisioned. In this case, it's a three-phase development or three-part development with a structure to part one on the east, and then as time passes or as development ensues, a development in the middle of the property and then one to the west. Much of the property is encumbered by a wetland, so they're sticking to those areas that are high ground or would not be impacted by that condition. I mentioned some phases. This is their phasing plan. Certainly it could ebb and flow a little bit, and these aren't exact final designs, but the phase one is really what they would start with, and that structure when you see it. The current zoning of the property. Oh, I'm sorry. Come on, it'll play games with me. I don't want to jump ahead on you. That's all that good stuff. Current zoning of the property is B3 highway commercial, and as we all kind of know when we move through our community, that houses a number of highway adjacent facility, the Holiday gas station, the movie theater on the west side. But on the east side, you have a number of, there's a car dealership, there's a restaurant, there's other miscellaneous retail sites on the east side of that road. There's a trailer sales, there's a recycler on that east side. So it runs, it's kind of a broad use for your B3 district. Interestingly, I don't know when it occurred, but I believe it's in the very recent past, this property was rezoned to mixed use, which then allowed the residential element to be constructed here. I believe is in the 5-year time horizon or so. 140 apartments, I believe, is the case. So that's the current zoning. This is again, I mentioned this is part of the Sauter District plat, and it right now serves and sits in an outlot status. And anytime something is proposed for development or platting, at the end of the day, it's gonna need to get from outlot B to a platted platted similar to Lot 1, Block 1, or Block 2, Lot 1, as in the plats that you all have seen in the past. Wetlands are delineated, and the applicant is working towards other more detailed wetland delineations as this thing proceeds. Okay, so what is a concept plan review? We've talked a little bit about this in the past, but it's always good for me to go through it with everyone again. It helps me. But a concept plan it's mandatory that subdividers prepare a concept plan depicting the subdivision proposal. On the basis of the concept plan, the City Council shall informally advise the subdivider, the applicant, as promptly as possible to the extent to which the subdivision generally conforms to the design standards of the article and to other sections of the chapter. The concept plan doesn't convey any legal development rights. It's not a plat. It's not an approval. It's preliminary. It provides preliminary guidance. It's advisory. It helps identify planning and engineering issues. And at the end of the day, it really helps everyone determine if a proposal warrants further consideration, or essentially is it premature and really should be not pursued. I mean, that's the big picture here. So we talk about our responsibilities here at the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission, if you remember, a couple months ago we did this. Planning Commission is compelled to do a few things here tonight, or maybe it's continued. Shall take public testimony at their public hearing and evaluate the concept plan against the premature subdivision criteria, 66-16, the performance standards of the chapter, the performance standards of the zoning ordinance, and any other city requirements it may certainly choose. Ultimately, the Planning Commission shall make findings and offer a recommendation for either concept approval or denial. Planning Commission may offer a recommendation of approval with conditions necessary to satisfy regulations. So in essence, is the proposal premature? And what does this mean at the concept stage? We'll talk about these things. Is a proposal consistent with the comp plan, zoning, and the MUSA? That's your sanitary service area. Does it represent a logical, a contiguous extension of development? And ultimately, should it be approved or denied, or maybe with conditions? So that's kind of the stage we're setting here, what you guys have to do. So I'll touch base, maybe the meat of this stuff is what they want. And so for phase one, we're talking about a 21,600 square foot multi-tenant light industrial warehouse building with those potential users, office, contractor, warehouse, distribution, light industrial condominium, service businesses, what have you. They did provide a concept of what the building would look like. And as we may have talked in the past, as you drive through that industrial area, this building kind of is what is out there. There's not smokestacks in your industrial area. There's not, junkyards and other things like maybe we might envision, at least maybe I might envision an industrial zone. That's certainly not the case. And in fact, in a lot of ways, something like this might be less impactful than a Holiday gas station if you live next to it. I mean, just in terms of the traffic or the lighting and the noise, so just something to think about. But anyway, this is their vision, and absolutely the applicant should talk more about that. But this is what they had submitted. This would be in that phase one. And again, this phase one is in this eastern zone as a possibility. So I talked a little about the area context. Again, there's that multifamily residential. There's a planned senior housing unit. I believe that's 10 or 11 units, surrounded by commercial businesses, service businesses, contractor operations, a trucking-related business. But really, they're looking to expand their employment-oriented businesses. We'll talk more a little bit about that. But also public facilities there. There's a Met Council wastewater facility in that southwest corner that I mentioned. So That whole area serves as a mixed commercial employment district rather than any kind of retail corridor. At least that's my take on it. So this is a map of, you've probably all driven out there, but I just tried to label them. Their proposal is here. And the gray area is zoned industrial. The red is the B3. And so they kind of fit in, at least from a form standpoint versus the zoning standpoint, probably pretty well. I have not been in all of these facilities, but I think we get an idea of what they are. Anyway, thought that was interesting. So the comprehensive plan guidance we have to look at is, recall this property is guided for mixed use. And so commercial and businesses development is appropriate along Highway 65. Light industrial uses may be appropriate in this mixed use when adjacent to existing industrial or other high-intensity businesses. Mixed use are intended to provide flexibility for commercial, commercial, residential, and employment-related development. And so, again, this is the future land use. It's zoned mixed use. So is the apartment complex. And this stems from the current comprehensive plan. Again, these aren't zoning rules. These are guidance of land use. And then if we look at our specific language of our comp plan and what is mixed use allowed to be used for, we do note that may include medium density residential, light industrial, and or I suppose public facilities when deemed appropriate. It's inside the MUSA, which this property is, and municipal water and sewer are required. That would be part of this expansion. And ultimately, typical uses state light industrial uses may be deemed appropriate when adjacent to existing industrial or other high-intensity businesses or adjacent to planned light industrial or medium-density land uses. So this is how the city defines mixed use in its comp plan. I'll skip these other things you saw in your packet, but this is really what the crux of it, of what that is. Okay, I mentioned the MUSA a little bit. In this case, it's located within the MUSA, and what that means is it is eligible for service to have utilities, like sanitary sewer extended to it, essentially without Met Council approval. It's anticipated for growth. I know it's a kind of a hard map to see, but you just have to trust me on that. It's in the MUSA. If you recall the Viking Meadows development from a couple months ago, that land was out of the MUSA. And in this case, it lies within. Talk about utilities briefly. I am not an engineer. I'm just taking the data from our GIS systems and talking with our city engineer and our public works director. The utilities are just to the north. All of these properties are served by city utilities, water and sewer. My understanding is there adequate capacity for them. That would ultimately have to be verified by the applicant and their engineering firm. But it's present and logical to extend that to this site. One other comment that you might have caught in the packet was comments from our city engineer. There will probably need to be some transportation upgrades as well as some water looping and the like. But he had mentioned this property is going to have to be served by some kind of road extension. Again, these are my really rough chicken scratch drawings. So this certainly is not going to be exactly where it is, but somehow there will need to be a road serviced here. The city does talk about extending a road, Buchanan Street, further south, south of the trailer court facility. Or maybe that's a dead end for the time being, but I just wanted to make sure you understood what that concept might represent. So is the proposal premature? I won't get into the merits of the goods or bads of it, but is it premature? So staff reviewed, is it consistent with the comprehensive plan, growth policies, transportation facilities, utility availability, and drainage consideration? Our staff conclusion, it does not appear to be premature. Again, it's in the MUSA, utilities are there, development's contiguous to existing development. We don't anticipate any significant growth or staging concerns as a result of this development. It shouldn't incite something else, and it's generally consistent with the comprehensive plan for that guided mixed use. So we didn't believe it's a premature consideration. So I talked a little bit about this, but is it, I used this format last time. The short answer is it consistent with the comp plan, zoning, and MUSA? And yes. I talked about that already. Does it concept represent a logical contiguous extension of development? I believe the short answer is yes. It's all there. The street layout extends the established neighborhood pattern. Ulysses and Buchanan would have to be extended. I showed that. Ultimately, those lot sizes and those phasings that they propose, we'd have to make sure those are meeting all of the tests for lot sizes. But a cursory look at it from the city engineer believes that they should be able to meet those satisfactorily. Anyway, so should the concept plan be approved or denied? Remember, you folks are required to make a finding and offer a recommendation for either concept plan approval or denial. You may certainly offer that with conditions if necessary. And your packet does have a draft resolution. I won't touch base on that right away because that's kind of the first piece of this conversation, and maybe I'd briefly like to get into the second piece of the conversation, and that's this zoning question. So your B3 zoning district allows those uses: office, retail, restaurant, hotel, and there's lots of them. Also, certain items by conditional use permit, including a place of worship, research facilities, what have you. And again, here is your zoning map for B3. But some of the things they're proposing are not consistent with the B3 district and would be generally associated with that light industrial district versus the B3, warehousing, distribution, industrial condominium, light manufacturing. But we also know that's consistent with your mixed use guidance. So if you're generally comfortable with what they're proposing and their concept, the question might be, how should the city address these uses to facilitate what they might want to do, to really enable all of their desires? I think there's three options. Retain the existing B3 regulations. This would limit them to everything within the B3. I don't think they like that. Option two, there's probably 10 options, but these seem to be the most apparent. Consider a limited B3 text amendment that would allow certain low-impact employment-oriented uses by CUP to ensure compatibility with surrounding development. By a narrow text amendment to preclude, transfer stations or heavy industry or something, you could do that by a text amendment to your B3. So for example, everything you could say, we want anything that's allowed in the industrial area can be in the B3 area except for X, Y, and Z, but all has to be by conditional use permit. So they've got to come back to you, and you have a chance to, make sure that makes some sense. Or ultimately, a third option might be to rezone the property to light industrial, and same as those other areas you saw to the north and west. I think our staff recommendation is, you know, in whole, the proposal is not premature, seems, appears consistent with the comp plan, compatible with the surrounding development, and certainly warrants further consideration versus it being rejected or not approved. But I think a narrow, limited text amendment to your B3 might be the most targeted and best solution for this. We haven't written that, it's just, and that's not what we're trying to do tonight, but rather say, is rezoning better? Should we just leave it alone and they have to just comply with that? Or might this text amendment be something to consider? Anyway, so that's it. And so the draft resolution in your packet, and I'm almost done, makes certain findings that mixed-use designation supports flexibility. The area contains mixed commercial and employment uses. It's generally consistent with your comp plan. Proposal is certainly not premature, and but some of their proposed uses are not accommodated within the B3 district. So the resolution's recommendation is to approve the concept plan, provide guidance regarding future zoning considerations, basically asking the council to direct staff to develop a potential text amendment, and then ultimately what amendments might be appropriate. The staff resolution is based on our recommendation, but as I always say, this is up to you folks. And if you think it should be just left alone, great. If you think it should be rezoned industrial, that is another option. But I think from a staff perspective, a narrow text amendment to give them what they generally, I think, are looking for, and speaking at length with them, might be the best, most narrow option when you start tinkering with your zoning code. Now, your B3 district, it's more than just this area in this community. So whatever you approve in this B3 district also applies elsewhere. So you want to be specific as best you can. Anyway, so I'll be quiet.
That's a lot to absorb.
And go from there.
Well, that was going to be my question. So if we do a text, or not we do it, but recommend a text amendment, that would affect all of the B3
Yes.
in the future,
Yes.
right? Can you explain, with the mixed use, it seems like it's broader. And so why can't we do that?
So the mixed use, so you have two zoning, let's see, well, let's just see if I have that, if I save that. You have a mixed use zoning and you have a mixed use guidance, and they're different. The zoning pretty much tells you, yeah, you can put a grocery store in this district, whereas the comp plan tells you we want that area to be kind of retail-ish, or we want that area to be industrial-ish. Those are the terms. But the mixed use zoning code, let's just pull that up, is broad. Let's see. So it does not necessarily allow them to do, if I remember this right, some of their industrial uses, multi-tenant facilities within that within that mixed use district, versus the B3 district with a potential conditional use permit. Also, if the city has a desire to expand some kind of residential capacity in this neighborhood, then the mixed use would be the better tool. Maybe that current residential district shouldn't have been put there. Who knows? We don't. There was a decision made with a different set of facts. But if you want I guess if the city says, hey, we want that area to grow residentially or foster that in some way, then the mixed use would be the better mechanism. Because it states, the primary land uses within the mixed use shall be office, retail, and residential. Whereas in your industrial or B3 really doesn't include that.
Thank you.
No short answers in any of this stuff,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I think what we'll do first is open the public hearing. So I'm opening the public hearing and asking anyone who would like to come up and speak about this issue and clear everything up for us. It's all good. And if you could please state your name and your address, please.
Paul Johnson, 1872 Briarwood Lane. I wrote the wrong address. I wrote my parents' address, which is right across the street. I would refer to myself as a stakeholder in the city. I've lived here. My family moved here in 1965. Been a lot of changes in 61 years. Mr. Johnson, could you move
Yeah.
that to the
Whatever you'd like.
to the zone map?
You bet.
Yeah.
You want the
The
zoning?
area,
or-
the aerial would be good.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you. And it's just kind of interesting. I also am a business owner. It was 14 years ago, almost to the day, that I was here for planning and zoning, planning commission meeting, as well as city council. We're looking to move our business Aggressive Hydraulics here. We broke ground in 2012 and moved here in 2013. And I would just tell you that I was, I don't remember all the hoops that we had to jump through, but there were some dynamics going on, and there was a lot of energy because of a couple sides of the fence going on because of the city sewer and water project and that sort of thing. And I wanted everyone to, being that I grew up here, I lived here, my children went to high school here. I've seen a lot of change, and I have perspective too. And I wouldn't say that my credentials match that of yours. I appreciate what you all do, because you have to be visionaries and also be compliant, and consistent, and all these sort of things to. Otherwise, it's the wild, wild west. In the early years when my family lived here, it kind of was that. This whole area on the east side of 65, none of that was here when we moved here, and we're kind of dealing with it now. I remember when those things went in. My father was on the council in the mid-'70s. House building lots in East Bethel back in those days, we talk about all the ruralness. They were 1 acre lots, and a lot of them were on top of one another, and there was a concern for contamination of the aquifer and all those kind of things, but really just having deliberate and conscientious understanding of what and consideration for what's going to happen. One of those addresses there, I'm not going to point out which one, but there was a massage parlor, and I don't know how that got in, but I think it had something to do with zoning. But most everyone I knew weren't for it, but I was pretty young at that time too. But I'm here to, I would just tell you, I'm here to support the plan you're looking at tonight, and I would just tell you why. And my opinion is, humble opinion is to find a way. And again, I just appreciate the city and staff, elected officials, planning commission. We figured it out. We found a way. And when I look at what we're looking at that's being developed, in light of everything that's there today, it seems like a perfect fit. I know a lot of residents want a grocery store. I don't think that's a good place for a grocery store. I don't think it's a good place for restaurants. We have other beautiful places in the city. Even back when I was a little guy, Highway 65 was brand new. in 1965, the highway was only about 4 or 5 years old. That big 4-lane highway that we know now that everyone complains about, there was nobody on it. And as things started getting built up, the first thing you see when you enter the city of East Bethel was what was going on the right. Looked kind of like a tin mining town, you know. And I mean that with all due respect. I'm very proud of this city and the residents and the business owners. But you know, certainly we'll figure it out. It's getting nicer and nicer there. The new developments that are going in are looking very professional. We have a plan, but it seems as though we painted ourselves in that south end of that park a little bit in the corner. There's some things that I don't know, you know, that with the water treatment and the lowland, and there's mitigation on the wetlands there, and so on. It seems, just again, my humble opinion, and being that I'm a neighbor, so this is my place there, and then my business is right up by the world famous Village Bank, and so just looking at the traffic, and if that were commercial, I know we're talking about extending the roads and what have you, just for escape routes and so on. Those are some of the things that we were dealing with 14 years ago. But I don't know if we're going to be able to get another access off the highway that's not already there. Traffic for safety, but also for the residents that are there with the senior living that's going in there, as well as the apartments, and then the single family homes along that west side there off Buchanan. So just intuitively, and again, being from the business perspective and the traffic that I know is there, and what's there, it seems, and the site or the rendering, it's a beautiful building, and I really like that 3-phase approach and what have you, and some of these other commercial opportunities. We need those in the city for sure, but it seems as though there's other locations that maybe would be more conducive for this industrial park, for the greater good of the city, and whatnot. The other interesting, I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Bross here a few weeks ago, and pretty enthused that I call him, he's within our community. He's out of Cambridge, but I consider that our community because, again, when I was here, that was a farming town. That's where we'd go to John Deere dealership and get parts and what have you. It feels better to me than as opposed to these really large corporations that have a little, they're in and out. And again, not to disparage anything we're doing right now, but I like the feel of people within our community, staying in our community, and working on doing things for the greater good of everybody. But again, thank you so much for what you do for the city, and I know it can be a thankless job in that. And most people I talk to are very appreciative of what you do, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Paul.
Thanks.
Okay. And if you could just state your name again, please.
Don Quayton. I own the Village Bank here and all over. I originated those, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it and different things up here. Your sewer and water came together at my place in Ramsey at the time. I lived at a little ranch out there. And the Met Council came to me to help get this passed to the city. For the whole bond, it was around $40-ish million. And so my history goes back to that time, and the vision that they had at the time, the Met Council, was that we were going to bring development here. And we're going to do it in phases. We need businesses so you can get rooftops, so you have a place to go and work, and you don't have to drive halfway across the metro. And I think that East Bethel's on the right path of that. People like Mr. Johnson, that leap he took from Blaine to here was amazing. And by the way, I'll be very transparent. He's on my board. He's my best cheerleader, and I choose people from the community to be on the board, so we never lose touch of the community. You know, my life has been very different and been very filled. You know, I'm a farm boy. I came up the hard way, learned to work. It wasn't 5 days a week or 6, it was 7. You had to milk those cows twice a day. Came to the cities, and here I took off. I could outwork everybody when I was young, not anymore today. And I built all the old pipe ends, bebops. I still have about 70 companies that lease from us in Blaine, so I understand your zoning and all those things. I've had the pleasure of working with city councils, helping Ramsey, the core out there, all these things. And so I just would like you to reconsider a person like what Brian can do. I've seen it. He doesn't bank with me, none of those things. So there's no inside thing here. It's about, he's done projects for me. And he's an amazing person, and his staff is amazing. They do what they say they're gonna do. And I think that's what we all gotta realize tonight, how important that is. A lot of people like to talk. Who actually completes something? Sitting down listening to this plan, I called Don Shaw today and ran it by him to make sure, because he's a big business person here too. Lives in this community, and he was all for this. He said, if you want me there, Don, I'll be there, but I got other things planned. There, you know, Ben Minks across the street with all those projects, the houses he's putting in over his personal friend, helped him get to where he's at. Across the street, Debater and Corey, we financed that one. So we're involved in the community, and I'd like to see us stay that way with these kind of projects coming in. Please don't handcuff the people that are willing to put up a building, get it financed. Let them have the pleasure of doing that. And in Blaine, we have the same restrictions, but they opened up a little bit more so we could build more buildings and have more businesses in there. And I've had churches started in my restaurants. I've had all kinds of businesses, and they work. The landlord is the one that has to monitor it, so they don't come to the city and have issues. That's our job. Bebops was the hardest one for me to do of all my ventures, because we were out there in the middle of a sod field, and then all the homes around it built. And then we got all the complaints. Well, I made a promise to Mr. Ryan, the mayor at the time, that if he'd let me do that, when I'm done, and it will be done, goes in phases, I would develop it. And that's why I put 50 detached villas around it. Today's residential, but still our strip mall there. So again, I come a different path here, and that's, we have a big debt with the city. I know those things from banking, and we gotta pay it off. These are good businesses that don't go away. They stay because they find new tenants and they keep on moving. It's cash flow for the city. That's truly important. You're letting these communities or these buildings come in. We don't know what's gonna be there in 10 years, but if you have mixed use of some sort that's viable for both parties, I think that's truly, truly important. And most people don't run a company like Brian does, Mr. Johnson, Ben Minks, all these people, they do it the right way. And I know it personally, because my signature's on that too. So I just ask you, please, I've been in front of a lot of planning commissions, councils, and thank you for what you're doing, but let's open up and let the city grow, do the right thing. It's gonna keep growing here. You have a beautiful, beautiful community. It's like a flower, let it grow, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's a tough act to follow. I'm a little red in the face after all the things that were said here, but I'm Brian Boss. I'm the owner of Final Approach Development. As Don mentioned, I'm from Cambridge. Actually, I guess it was Paul that mentioned it. So I'm just up the road. I own properties in the area. I'm also a general contractor in Cambridge, so we do not only build or develop, but build and then own and hold properties in the area. That's why I'm here tonight. My desire is to do just that in East Bethel. It's to add value to the city and hold that property for my family, and do it by paying my way, not asking for a handout, I'm not asking for subsidy. We want our properties to look good, we want them to be well kept, and keep them full. And so we've got a little bit of a different concept here that we think is in demand, and that is kind of a small bay user concept, which is really looking at smaller tenants that need some space but not 20 or 40,000 square feet. We're looking for users that maybe want 3,000 to 10,000 square feet. And so we're attempting to build a building that has great flexibility in how we can demise the space into usable units that we can therefore lease. And so in order to be successful at that concept, we think it's really important to achieve some flexibility in the zoning beyond just the B3. And the reason for that is we anticipate, you know, as Eric has already talked through a bunch of this, but some light manufacturing, a miniature version of aggressive hydraulics, a small machine shop that has just a few people, possibly a light distribution or small-scale warehousing, not unlike Country Hearth in the neighborhood. Construction-related businesses that need a small space for an office and a warehouse, not unlike Patton HVAC, Classic Construction, DEC, Willett Remodeling, and others in the neighborhood. And we also need the ability to, of course, do the multi-tenant, which is not specifically listed as a permitted use in B3, but it is in light industrial. So why do I need that flexibility? Again, we think that's important for the success of the project, to have a broader ability to attain tenants that we think are compatible with the neighborhood. We also think that this site is a little bit off the beaten path for many of the permitted uses of B3. It's almost exactly a half a mile from when you make the turn from 65 and get to the property line. Okay, that's too far for many retail users. They won't even look at it. And so that really rules out a lot of the B3 users, not because I want to rule them out, but because they won't choose that site. It's too far, too much distance. So again, we want the flexibility and tenant options. We want to keep the building full. I think it's just the most consistent with the neighborhood. If we had an amendment through CUP that allowed some additional uses that are more consistent with the neighborhood, that just drives more compatible uses and in alignment with the businesses that are there. Now, I want to be clear that I'm not opposed to B3 users. If somebody came to me, by all means, we would want to make an attempt to lease to them. So I'm also in favor of Eric's option 2 that provides text amendment to the existing B3 zoning by just adding some additional allowable uses. You may have seen in the staff report that we already have an interested user, and it's a place of worship, and I just want to be clear about that. They are ready to sign, but that would be a subsequent request for a conditional use permit for a place of worship. Eric mentioned the wetlands. There's about 38.5% of the site is wetland or wetland buffer area. I can't deal with that very easily, and I don't want to deal with that. We want to be good stewards of the land and leave that alone and work around it. And so our plan that was submitted is avoiding all those wetlands and buffer areas. And we think it was creative, but we think it works quite well. So I think I'll just wrap it up, and then I'll open it up for questions you might have for me. You know, we're not we don't think we're asking for anything unusual or inconsistent. We think it's actually more consistent with the neighborhood. We think it's consistent with the comp plan and the guided uses of that, and what mixed use language was in the comp plan. We think that ultimately our request gives the best option for similar operational characteristics and compatibility. We're not going to disrupt the neighborhood. We are going to provide a pretty low impact to the neighborhood, limited vehicle traffic, etc. But at the end of the day, I want to be in East Bethel as a property owner. I want the property to be successful. It's not successful for me. It ultimately isn't successful for the city. We want to be a part of the community, and we're hopeful that you'll see that in my presentation and what Eric has presented tonight, that the zoning piece is sort of our biggest hurdle. And without that, we likely don't have a project here in East Bethel at that location anyway. But we think it's a great use of this site. It's a tough, challenging site, and we think this is a solution that's a win-win. So I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any for me.
I'm going to have quite a few questions for Eric Johnson, but I did have one question about storage. So what kind of space are you allocating to storage?
Interior storage or
The
exterior?
outside storage.
Don't plan for any exterior storage right now.
Okay.
So I know that certainly in B3, exterior storage is not allowed, I don't believe. So that is not part of my request at this time. So potentially that if a tenant were to need that, I would suspect I'd need to come back for additional approvals for a conditional use permit at some point in time, but my initial request does not include exterior storage.
Other questions?
Would that change if the zoning were changed to mixed use?
As far as exterior storage,
Right.
I don't know that it would change. I guess I'm not thinking through a reason that would require that to change due to a mixed use zoning. I haven't studied that enough to know if, I guess I don't expect they need it, so I'm not sure why I would change it.
Okay.
Two questions from, sorry, finish your.
I was just gonna say, I'm a little bit of a stickler on tenants. I don't like pallets sitting out. I don't like vehicles sitting out. I don't like semi-trailers that aren't mobile sitting out for weeks on end, those sorts of things. So it's really not my desire to have exterior storage.
So two questions for me. The road that's tentatively planned to go on the western edge of your proposal, is that going through the wetlands?
The road itself would not be something that I would hope to put in,
Okay.
but I do intend to dedicate the easement to the city through the plating process.
Okay.
My personal opinion about that road is it'll probably never get built because of the wetlands.
Okay.
And I may be wrong on that. In 30 years, maybe that'll be there, but it's definitely going to have some hurdles to build that road. But certainly, because of how we were able to lay out the site, we're willing to commit that, dedicate that to the city in this process.
Got it, thank you. And the second question, although a little forward-thinking, is going to be pertinent to my decision, but with the daycare going in, what is your process for assessing tenants? Do you do background checks or otherwise?
The daycare is on a different building.
It is, but it
Yeah.
is in the area.
Right. We always do financial background checks. We do run background checks in terms of criminal backgrounds, those sorts of things. That's sort of standard practice. not necessarily required for landlords, but it's a practice my company uses. So certainly if we saw red flags, we'd want to raise concern and have more discussions about that, but
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Question, yeah. I was kind of thinking on the same lines as the, basically just who the tenants are gonna be, so.
Sure.
I guess I have just two questions as well. So how many units is it? How many possible different businesses could be in there? Granted, there could be people that purchase two, right? Or rent out two
Right.
spaces.
So, the current building could be demised into 6 smaller units.
Okay,
That's probably unlikely. We think that if we are successful in attaining a CUP for a place of worship, we'll probably use 2/3 of the building for that purpose, which would leave a couple of units vacant. We do have some space where we could build an addition and make this building about 5,000 square feet larger to the south. If we were very successful in a lease up and things progress, there's potential that that would get added on right away, which would then add more capacity from other tenants. Today, our plan is to build a 21,600, and that could be up to about 6 tenants.
okay. And then I guess just my follow-up question, which again, I'm not looking for a specific dollar amount or anything like that, but just as far as rent or leasing out, is this gonna be comparable for people in our area, for businesses to come in and actually lease the space? So
Yes.
this building is full, it doesn't sit half empty and,
Right.
and sorts, that we are actually bringing in, you know,
I
people to our
can't
community.
do this and have it sit empty.
Okay,
So,
Right.
it has to rent, and that's the only way I would do this. And so, the rents are comparable up the street, and so we've studied the area, understand the market a bit, the needs and the rent rates, and we'll be advertising comparable market rates.
exciting,
I had a question about, you got the cul-de-sac coming down, and if you did develop that second, would a road go across to Buchanan so they could run water main across, so it's not a dead end into the cul-de-sac?
So I think the idea would be, the initial phase 1 would be the extension
Correct.
coming down with the cul-de-sac. And as phases 2 and 3 are developed, according to the engineering report, they had recommended we extend that water loop around with each of those phases. And Buchanan would have to also be brought down
Correct.
to the property
Okay.
as part of one of those phases. But phases 1 and 2 can both be accessible from the first cul-de-sac.
Right. I just very much would like to see that water main over to Buchanan, because if you are gonna put a tenant in there like 6 employees in one
Right.
unit, they're not gonna use enough water and they're gonna have terrible.
Bad water, dead
Yeah.
end, yeah, I
So-
understand that.
So that's, and that's my background,
Right.
so it's a kind of
Right.
it's about me.
No, understand
But
that.
I like the building and the opportunity you're providing,
Thank you.
so that's all I had.
Did you say that 2/3 of the space might be for worship?
Potentially, yes.
So I'm wondering, because the building design doesn't read worship space architecturally or artistically, would you adapt that to resemble that more as a worship space?
We're sort of taking the approach that the worship space would be really an interim use for them. They would like to place, in fact, I've got 3 of the staff members from the church here tonight. They would like to have a new location in East Bethel. They currently have locations in Shoreview and Blaine. And this would be their initial location until they get on their feet, raise enough money, and ultimately build their own facility in East Bethel or the area. And so, to answer your question, the church is temporary, So I need to think about life after the church.
Right.
I also want to point out that a place of worship is typically tax exempt, but not in this case because I'm the owner, and so I'm still paying the full boat taxes. And so another reason for them to get out of my building because they don't need to pay me back for the taxes. In a loving way, like Jesus would.
Well, for me, I do like the plan.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I like the design actually. Yeah, it seems like you guys did cover everything from my end, especially the role and the situation, things like that. So I think I'm good on that.
Thank you.
For now.
What similar projects have you done then?
Cambridge, I've done several redevelopment projects. Bought old buildings, fixed them up. I have a 22,000-foot building in Cambridge. I have a 12,000-foot new construction in Isanti, multi-tenant, building a U.S. Postal Service office in Cambridge that I'll own and hold as a family real estate investment. I built the Cambridge Library, which I converted from a nursing home into a library, public library. That was an interesting project. And a number of multifamily projects I've co-developed and retain ownership in the area. We own and hold several vacant parcels of land as well in the area, which are waiting for the right opportunity to develop.
So far you haven't done taking vacant land and putting up buildings like this then? Or you
Well,
have?
Isanti we did. Yep, that's a 12,000 foot. It's a more a retail center, less this style. It's not a light industrial type use. I've got light industrial type users in my building in Cambridge. Sort of a mixed use there. But I have not built a ground up small bay user facility yet. But knowing what I know about the 65 corridor from Blaine to Cambridge, there's a demand for that.
What do you think the useful life of a building like this would be? I mean, how far are we looking into the future?
Much longer than my lifetime. And I guess that's an interesting question, but my goal is always that certainly if I'm going to own it, I'm looking at more than the cost, the initial investment cost. I'm looking at the cost of ownership. And that entails, maintenance over the years, new roofs, windows, those sorts of things. Those all add to the cost of ownership. And as the guy who will hold it, and maybe my children will own it at some point, it's important to me that I address those things because somebody has to pay, and I want to use quality materials that will last and outlast.
Well, and somebody has to be a tenant too.
Right.
Actually, the reason I asked that is because I used to be co-owner of a machine shop in Fridley, and I was in one of those buildings off of 65 that are not so good.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
wondering if it's still standing, and that was
Right.
not so long ago.
Yeah, a lot of those were neglected, and they lasted for 80 years, but they should have been, out of service at 50 or something.
Exactly.
So, that's not, of course, my intention. I don't think we'll have those sorts of users. They may be at a very small scale, but it's very important to me that my properties look nice and are well kept. And certainly be willing to pass along some references that way at some point if it's important to the city. But that's super important to me that what we have and own and display for our communities is nicely kept.
Thank you.
Will it have adequate parking if you have that much church?
Whole lot of parking.
There is. It's
So,
tough to tell from the plan.
yeah, one of the beauties of this location is that we're able to get ample parking You can see on the rear of the building, the west side of the building, there's sort of the truck circulation area, which we do have some drive-in doors and a couple dock doors planned. You need space for big trucks to maneuver. But we've also dashed in parking there that demonstrates a proof of parking for a worship space use. So Sundays, there'd be, 200 parking stalls available, but during the week, there's probably, less than 20 or 30 being used. So using that large pave area on the west, that's doubling as truck maneuvering, but also Sunday parking in that way.
Thank you. That's all.
Anyone else have questions? None on this side? You guys?
I can jump back up if you have more, so.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. And does anyone else want to come up and speak? Okay. Alrighty. And if you could say your name and your address, please.
Sure. David Soren, 2285 132nd Lane. I am the lead pastor of Renovation Church, so we would be the tenant. I just want to thank you all for what you do, and I know it takes a lot of work and a lot of time away for your family, so thank you for doing what you do for the city. Two quick things I'll say. One, we love working with Brian. He built phase 1 of our building in Blaine, our initial building, and then his company also built phase 2. And when you go through a large building project, you work with so many companies and groups, with realtors and banks and architects, and they were far and away the best company that we've worked with. Just an absolute man of integrity. He does what he says. Just has an incredible reputation in this area. So we love him, and I can't recommend him to you enough. And then secondly, we've been wanting to come to East Bethel for a long time. Love this city. There's a lot of great things in East Bethel, but one of the unique things about the city is there are 5 churches in East Bethel whose attendance cumulatively adds up to 300. There are 15,000 people in the city. And so that's crazy. So most of the residents of East Bethel that are attending a church, probably 90% of them have to leave the city to go to a church. And we will come probably with 300. We'll start at 300 to 400 at this location with a live teaching pastor. Just excited to just come here and have a place where the residents of East Bethel can have community and have a short drive. We don't have to drive 15, 20 minutes to everything. You can drive to church in your town. So we're just really excited to be here for the community, so residents can go to church in their own community. So that's all I'll say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the next gentleman.
So,
And if you,
Ordinance, I represent the landowner.
okay, and can you just state your name for
Yeah.
just for the minutes, please?
Yeah, Jeff Nordness.
And your address.
It's 6207 South Glen Trail, Lino Lakes.
Thank you.
And so it's not about selling the property for me. It's more about the concept that he's bringing to your city. I deal with mostly companies under 20 employees. And the need for small bay buildings such as this for the entrepreneurial spirit and new business and bringing people into the city and keeping them here is, I can't speak better about that. All I've seen in the last 6 years is they're building 200,000 square foot buildings with minimum rentals of 20,000 square feet. Oftentimes, they're leasing the whole entire thing. So you got one tenant in 200,000 square feet that takes up a massive amount of land, and it doesn't create the growth that you would like to see. It's all storage. And this is something that, ironically, I've known Brian for an awful long time, and he just happened to be the one that came to this property. I did not seek him out. He came and saw this land, and I just happened to have it. And it's just really follows what you've got in this area and the rest of the businesses that are there, which really drives, in my opinion, the United States. It was, 95% of the companies in the United States are under 200 employees, which is what we're really built on. So just want to, and just the type of building that he's planning is really top notch. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing to add on kind of where he's at?
Yep, come on up, please. Just so that can be in the minutes.
Yes. What they're talking about here is these small bays. That's what we have a lot in Blaine. And we have them anywhere from, 2,400, I think, up to one tenant of ours is about 35 to 40,000 square feet. I love to see the people outgrow our buildings, because that means that they started, and they need a place to start. There's not a lot of places for that to do. In Blaine, we're full. They're not gonna go to Ham Lake because the water and sewer's not there. That's why I back this so much about water and sewer coming up here. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for the city. It really is. You've got a guy that we trust. He's a very humble man. He's done a lot of construction things, a lot more than he's talking about. He's well-heeled. The other man with the church in Lexington, and I've been there. I go to Eagle Brook. But everybody needs a place to worship, no matter where you come from. We need to do. And I think this is another perfect opportunity for this. It fits the story you guys are writing about the future. But we need your approvals, and that's what it's all about. So I think what he's doing is going to be fantastic for the city. And cash flow, pay debt back. So that's a big deal. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anyone else want to come and talk about the issue? If not, I'm closing the public hearing, and now we're going to have a little chat. So, how about on this side? Do you guys want to?
I mean, I guess my question remains the same about the street that's gonna go through
Yeah.
the wetlands. If you wanna speak a little bit about.
I could a little
that.
bit. One of the things cities do, and I think I put this in your packet, this service road, if it opens, come on.
Is it required? Is that something that is gonna be required at this point, or is that just?
So cities, you never know what MnDOT or other road entities of the world do, right? So cities always try to say, okay, how are we planning to move people around our community? And so cities have these long-range road concepts. And so that's what is shown here, and this was from our city engineer. And maybe that road in some point in the future ties down to 181st Street. There's no design for that. There is no money set aside for that. There is nothing that is immediately pending on that. But nevertheless, cities still have to plan for how we move around our community in some way, shape, or form. I forget who said it might likely never be built. But if this development is being presented to you, you have to take the opportunity to acquire and secure that potential right-of-way. Because once it's built, you can't then go get it back. So that's the genesis of some of this stuff, not a pending road project.
And from an emergency response, is it a requirement that we put a road in there?
No.
Okay.
Some cities, will prohibit, and most cities will prohibit long dead ends. Where it's 600, 700 feet, or how long does it take to get an ambulance back, or in this case, that's why it looks to connect to the next logical point of 181st Street. But again, this is nothing more than a really long-range vision scoping concept.
And from the engineering perspective, what is the impact if we have to put a road over the wetlands?
I'm sorry.
From an engineering perspective, what is the impact to the surrounding lakes if we have to put a road through there? Not that we have to, but if that is needed.
Oh, I think to the applicant's point, Mr. Boss's point, it probably would be difficult to do. City would require, like any other entity, to mitigate for those. I mean, wetlands are around our community and they're across the country, obviously, and they are impacted by a lot of the things we do. But you then have to do the assessment. The applicant, as a matter of fact, is doing a deeper wetland assessment at this point, which is required as a next step. But if the city went in and did that road in 10 years, for example, we'd have to comply with whatever those rules are. I think it's a 2-to-1 replacement match still, but those rules could change. So.
Okay. That's all I had.
I'm wondering why the best option wouldn't be to go rezone to mixed use rather than trying to change the definition of B3, because then we have maybe problems down the road with other B3 areas, whereas giving this mixed use would eliminate any of that and would allow for this development to be there.
Yeah, I have exactly the same questions. Maybe I'm not understanding.
Yeah, this isn't an easy conversation. I mean, it takes a lot of understanding and mixing and matching the potential options here. Let's look at the mixed use code.
Isn't it already mixed use?
No, it's B3. Right now, it's B3. The guidance is mixed use, but the actual land use rules that apply today is B3.
Okay.
So if you rezoned it to a formal mixed use, what we look at that is what is the purpose of that? Urban structure, streets and blocks. It looks for include office, retail, or residential uses. I don't think that's the flavor of what they're asking to.
It's still not having light industrial.
No,
Correct.
Like
no.
machine shops. And
No,
whatever.
it's and that's the permitted uses. From a conditional use standpoint, these are the approved conditional uses. Could you, maybe to your point, Mr. Terry, is that could you amend the mixed use district to allow certain industrial uses, much like the B3 possibility? Sure, but one thing that the mixed use still does, it encourages residential development in some way, shape, or form. And is this area something the city wants to see more residential growth?
So I'm looking at Exhibit M, and Exhibit M at the bottom says limited secondary zoning light industrial PUD, a comma PUD. So, which is different than what you just showed me.
No, so the guidance is different from the zoning. So the mixed use guidance, these are just very broad terms. So the purpose of our mixed use zoning areas is, again, commercial, residential uses. It may include medium density residential, may include light industrial. It may, but you still then have to go back and do an amendment to your land, to your zoning code.
So why are those not consistent, the guidance and the zoning, why are they not?
Well, they're not always gonna match. The guidance tells the council and all of us the direction we kind of want to go. And the controls tell us what we can do today, in effect. If the city wants that to be more of a residential area, you know, you could. But also wanted to go back to the mixed use of your guidance. Where is that? Where's So your future land use map, and that's what I'm referring to, talks about all this being the mixed use, and then we'd look at what that chart is I had up before. So it does allow for certainly to have some inclusiveness of industrial, some inclusiveness of a more intensive use, but the day-to-day zoning code which is these apartment complexes, and then lands to the east across 65, have clearly been developed as residential. The Viking Meadows development, that is all zoned mixed use.
And then the kind of maroon is,
B3.
or whatever color that is
B-
B3.
Yep.
I mean, like, go ahead.
How difficult would it be to change the existing zoning of mixed use to reflect the mixed use purpose?
When the city these were adopted in 2018, 2019 or so. So we're still following that guidance. You're going to be going through a comprehensive plan amendment in the next 18 to 24 months. You're going to be required to update all of these. If you don't want residential, or to rephrase it, if you want residential in this zone, then rezone it to mixed use. And you will then not have uses such as being proposed because they're not a permitted nor conditional use.
That's till we change that to reflect this.
Right, but again, so you're still trying to then still mix residential use and a commercial or industrial use. And whereas the opportunity to either just straight rezone it to industrial or to keep it a B3 with some capacity for industrial, it more or less guides it non-residential.
Is a church a permitted use in a industrial?
No, they are, in the B3, again, all of it's, you gotta always go back and look. In the B3 district, it is a conditional use, place of worship, so.
Yep.
But in the industrial district, public institution, sorry, let's take a look. It is allowed by, conditional use as determined by the Planning Commission.
So what about like a distribution business or a furniture store or something like that, or
In the industrial?
yeah,
Well, then we go back to the permitted uses that are allowed in the B2 and B3 districts as determined by you folks and the city council. So you could do the same things in the industrial district that you can do in the B2 and B3. But I think what we're suggesting to you is kind of a form-based approach to this. I'll keep it as a B3 district, which they can still do in the industrial zone, but your process to change your zoning also then requires a comp plan amendment, communication with the Met Council, and does then allow all of these other uses to be done in your industrial zone as listed and by conditional use permit. The other thing to keep in mind is one thing you still have to deal with, or all of the city, you still have a residential piece here. You know, and trying to be sensitive to what they have to be neighbors with. That if you allow without the rezoning, you allow certain things by conditional use permit, you can control that design, you can control that intensity. And from a form-based zoning, I guess, if it comes in by conditional use permit, you can require the building to look as such, operate as such, and it isn't quite so much a concern as what's in it. If that makes sense, you know?
So how complicated is the process to do a CUP for each of his phases?
So that's part of the thing we'd probably have to talk about until we see what they're actually proposing. Again, what you're dealing with is a comp plan, and what we believe we're trying to get from you all is what might be if you like the concept, how might you best facilitate the concept? Is it through a rezoning to industrial? Is it through a comp plan, is it through keeping it B3 and allowing certain things by conditional use permit? Or to even Mr. Terry's comment, well, should it be mixed use and allow something? You know, so what might be the best option? And then trying to throw in what's the most narrow. What, again, and so you're not, I mean, if you wanted to be zoned industrial, you could certainly do that. And that wouldn't be invalid, but now you have a kind of an island around a residential zone.
Who's already looking over a lot of industrial stuff.
Right, so we're trying to be sensitive to them as well. And if you can control it through a CUP, it gives you the most latitude for quiet occupancy and control the lighting, control some of the hours if need be.
But then, so if we keep it as B3, then anytime they have a tenant that wants to come in for a light industrial, they'll have to come in.
Right, but if it's
Come
B3,
before us.
but if it's permitted in the B3, they could just do it.
But that's a great question, because if you build the building within the scope of the zoning, and then some different tenant comes in, that's not within, then does that tenant have to
Yes, they
go
do.
through the process?
'Cause the question at that point is the use versus the structure.
Right.
Mhm.
So you're saying that if we kept it as B3, then that's where you're saying we would add these specific.
You would add it, so if they want to do a multi-tenant building, as they showed in the B3, that would be by conditional use to build a building there. Now, one other, good you brought it up, and it's really deep in the weeds with some of the zoning things.
It is.
Is what could that language kind of really look like? You know, I've spent a little bit of time, you know, thinking about, I don't know if I have.
So I definitely don't want to deter businesses having another hoop to jump through to think that they have to then come in and get a CUP
Yeah.
to maybe be accepted and approved for their business to come in here.
In most cases, they're gonna have to do that anyway because of their site plan requirements. They're gonna be here. Your other elements of your code require your review for your site plan as commercial. So a home, you showed up and you bought a piece of property in the city, you wanted to build a house, you would not be required to go through a site plan review. But for commercial enterprises, you do. So again, I'm just gonna show this, and this is just, ignore the rest of it, but this is something that this would be maybe further down the path. That if you did an amendment to your B3 district, the language would look such as something like this. So it would be by conditional use, light industrial condominium and multi-tenant commercial industrial buildings, subject to the use restrictions, and then that would be the use restrictions below. So, and those restrictions would be, where do I have those? Limitations, I suppose. So this is what they could do in those buildings.
So what we see there, is that kind of what the text amendment would be?
Yeah.
That whole page?
Yeah, and so you would be allowed to do, by conditional use permit, industrial condominium or multi-tenant building subject to the use limitations. You can do limited warehousing, storage, distribution facilities that are accessory to a commercial showroom, to a commercial use. Again, this is some rough language. These are the other facilities that could be there. But we would specifically state that truck repair, truck depots, truck stops, freight terminals, logistics facilities, and other truck-intensive uses are not permitted. And the reason we should specifically state that is, again, the B3 zoning would apply broadly, not just this one space.
Right.
So we have to think about, excuse me, where else is this zone? So we would need some additional clarification about what a light, and to your point, Commissioner Pagnac, is we don't want to have them come in for everything if we can avoid it. So maybe we can, I wrote this a while ago, so we define what a light industrial condominium building is, and that's containing 2 or more tenant spaces for office, showroom, contractor, research, or light industrial uses. Tenant spaces may be occupied by a B3 permitted uses and permitted uses in light industrial district without separate use permits, without separate conditional use permits in that building. So if they're in that special building, as part of that CUP, we can kind of preempt some of that review. But the last sentence would go back to no warehousing, storage, or distribution shall be permitted, except for item W above, which allows some limited use of those things to indoor. So it's a lot of back and forth. It's easier to just rezone it industrial in some sense, but you lose some of that control.
I think the thing that, I mean, if we were to go this route, some industry, even light industry, requires a lot of water. And I would prefer if they come in and get approval for those industries, in which case, if we went this route, I would recommend we put something in that exception, because we need to be aware of those type of industries.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm also in favor of the sticking with the B3 and requiring CUPs, especially since they're gonna always come in anyway. And that way we have the opportunity to assess on a case-by-case basis whether those are gonna impact the natural resources of the community.
In a lot of ways, the site itself, I'm sorry, a lot of things. I mean, these are not big facilities. I mean, they're important, and they do a lot of them, and they do bring a lot of good in what they do, but in of themselves, these aren't big facilities. These aren't massive trucking warehouses or anything like that. They're relatively small facilities on a very kind of compact site that's hard to utilize. So I don't think you'll be facing a demand for outside storage in any way, shape, or form. I think you're gonna have a lot of precious land there along your corridor that somebody would, I think, be ill-advised to invest in something like that. It's my opinion. So what we're saying is, again, not that you have to decide that action tonight, but give council in the resolution, just to kind of go back to that.
I guess, so convince me why we wouldn't rezone this as industrial then?
It limits uses.
It does.
So we go with the a mixed use, like what a year for, so that would cover basically everything then?
Could you say that again, Commissioner?
So if we approve like a zoning for mixed use,
Yes.
is it gonna cover like everything? So,
No.
No,
no?
it doesn't do the light industrial.
The best option is the B3.
I think it's a B3.
With the attachments.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta remember, all of these guidelines, I mean, we're sitting here in a 3-hour meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They don't cover every use that's gonna come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do our new comp plan, there's gonna be things in there that aren't in there today. Example, data centers, AI data centers.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't mentioned years ago.
Right.
And so the reality is to keep it as flexible as possible.
Well, that's what I'm
And-
trying to do, is like trying to make
Right.
it
Yeah,
as
and so
much
doing that is
as,
the
you know,
B3 with the amendment.
okay, because I'm like, I just, don't, again, I didn't realize that every business would have to come before us.
Yeah, and it's largely because of the site plan factor, not so
Okay.
much, not so much from a zoning standpoint, but just from a site management, access, water use, some of that stuff.
Okay, yeah, because I'm trying to make it so it is an easier, again,
Correct.
come to East Bethel, start your
Yeah.
business. We're here for opportunities,
Mhm.
make it easy for you.
I mean,
Yeah,
even
that's fair.
out
But-
the chute, the applicant talks about having a tenant who already needs a conditional use permit. So these things,
Yes.
these
yeah.
things, you're gonna
Yeah.
always have some push and pull.
And this won't affect anything that's already existing in the B3, or is that gonna affect any businesses in the B3 if we add this?
Well, it might give them some more flexibility if they have some different uses.
Okay, but it
Okay.
won't take anything away.
No,
Okay.
But just to play the devil's advocate a little bit, is that might give future businesses flexibility that we didn't want them to have when we did the zoning in the last comp plan.
Right.
You know,
And that's a really good point, so that's why you want
Is-
that amendment to be narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Is that doing something like putting in apartments in the industrial area?
right?
So, I mean,
Seemed like a
there's a
good idea
perfect
at the time.
example, where, you know what I mean? And really, honestly, it's not bad there, right?
No,
And putting
No.
this building there is not gonna
it's gonna be great.
hurt that building.
To the applicant's
Or the
comment,
apartment.
and, I mean, let's say it was a McDonald's that wanted to go down in this spot, for example. The McDonald's would be vastly more disturbing to that neighborhood than in terms of light, noise, traffic, than maybe what they're proposing.
Right.
And so you would control that by a CUP. They could still show up with the
Right.
McDonald's, because it's B3. But if it's zoned industrial, they could still come in as a permitted use.
Sure.
So it's a little bit of a push and pull.
Yeah, I think we should, either go to B3, which will tend to make more sense to me, really.
So what I talked about in the is if you folks think it's a concept that's is good, I guess, for lack of a better word, is a lot of what you're spending your time on is this paragraph here, is ask the city council to direct staff to evaluate whether limited amendments to the B3 highway district may be appropriate to accommodate those things we talked about. So again, what I showed you was just myself scratching on a piece of paper and just trying to think about, until the council tells me to do it, I really won't think about it too much. But paragraph B gives guidance to say, hey, but we're gonna restrict these uses we don't want: outdoor storage, freight terminals, truck depots, and anything else you might want restricted. So
And who does that part? Does that, our discussion
that'll be
in staff? And this is gonna take a few months to do. I do wanna say to you, I think that everyone agrees that this is a good idea. I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I think it's a great idea. The mundane part is how do we make it happen?
So when you say a couple months, I don't think we can. Talking to the applicant, they're trying to move this along, which is normal. So if they
And not spending a lot of money while we're
Yep,
discussing
yep.
this.
So if you folks approved a resolution of something generally of support, such as this, or maybe other changes, that goes to the council early next month. But they have a deadline of middle of next week and they're gonna have to take a leap of faith in some way, shape, or form as to what the council, because anybody can apply for something. They'll probably apply for their next step in this would be site plan review, I'm not saying it all right, the steps that are, yeah, the CUP for the church,
Okay,
you know, all these
understood.
things.
I think we get it, right, as far as like, they're gonna,
Yeah, it's all coming at you,
yeah.
one way.
Okay. So we've got, okay. We've got time to kind of think through some stuff.
Our resident expert.
Well, given all that discussion, it seems like the B3 with the, what do you call it, text amendment?
Yes, sir.
Would be the best route, and I'm presuming the applicant is fine with that approach?
Won't speak for him, but I think that's been everybody's cautiously optimistic about trying to make that work for everybody.
Obviously, it would depend a bit on the text amendment, but presumably it would be what we prefer. And assuming that language is adaptive to what we're trying to do, yes, that would be our preference.
I think you have as clear a picture of this as any of us. It's a lot of discussion.
Well, I've probably spent more time looking at this than you have at this point, but obviously Eric has spent a great deal of time looking at options, and I think he's on to something. Initially, my request was an light industrial rezone, but I can see the validity in the other option at this point. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah, way more sense.
With that, I'd like to make a motion, although I'm not quite sure how, but I would try it this way. I'd like to make a motion to recommend the approval, oh, you've got it up there? Is that the,
If you say PC 2607, and then with any amendments you might want.
and this basically is saying what we were just talking
Yes, sir.
Right, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution number PC 26-07 as written, and I don't know of any amendments to that. Does anyone?
Sorry, can you confirm, does this say mixed use or does it say B3? Because I see mixed use.
I'm sorry. Where? What?
It says where, in the second, whereas.
It's guided mixed use. It's not zone mixed use, but
It's
guided.
guided.
Got it.
That's
Guided
what
is
it
different than
that's what I'm like,
zoning.
is it
Yep.
different?
Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
confusing.
What is it?
Guided
following
mixed
is-
use.
I might
Versus
make
zone
that
B.
mistake, make no mistake,
Yeah.
right? But
But it's basically
Just not yet.
B3 with the CUP.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so
that
we've got-
concludes my motion.
Okay, good. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Fabulous. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? So that motion passes. And now, Mr. Johnson, if you could say what the next steps are.
Oh, well, I have to think about that. Obviously, this has to go to the council, just purely from the concept plan review, this has to go to the council. And with your recommendation, and that they'll make a final finding, and then report back to the applicant. In the meantime, I have to sit down with them and see what the next best steps are. Good news is we don't have to go to the Met Council. I did affirm that today, which is fine. I mean, they've been supportive of everything we've wanted from them, but they were helpful. There's a site plan element. There's I have to think about how we best process this now. So I don't have a great answer for you, but but you'll expect something at your next meeting.
Okay.
At the very least, if the council approves it, we have to have a public hearing on that text amendment.
Right.
And so once that's in place, all that can be concurrent current asks. So it'll be maybe this one won't be so long, maybe the next one will be a little longer, so, but we have to, and that's kind of part of it.
I just thought of something that I don't know whether it was in the resolution or not, which is the easement for the service road from Buchanan.
It's shown on the adopted map as a concept, so it's in there by default, but we know that the applicant is gonna have to spend a little bit of time with the city engineer and figuring out those cul-de-sacs and some of those things.
We already are here. We're already talking with the engineer on that.
Yeah, and we'll have another meeting with the applicant, with Hackinson and the city attorney and all the parties to see what our next steps are. But this is a big hurdle.
Well, and I do like to kind of give a few words to the applicant and other people that are interested that, you know, kind of what the next steps are. And with the city council meeting, they don't have a public hearing like this, so there's not an opportunity to kind of have a back and forth. There is a public forum at the beginning, isn't there? So if there's something that absolutely needs to be said, or you could write letters or communicate with the council if you'd like to too.
Good.
Okay.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Alrighty, anything else that we need to discuss? So that matter's done, and anything else on the agenda?
Just one update for you. The city's newsletter is coming out here in the next week or so.
Yay.
And so I'm told on the front page is the short-term rental stuff.
Good.
So you got the head billing, you know, is it?
Okay, good.
It wasn't up my, you know, so we'll expect that public hearing on it's your July meeting. I know the council is eager to consider it, but they were more than happy to they have to have a public hearing on the ordinance, and it's a zoning change, so here you are.
Well, the same with the public hearing then for this text amendment. If we can advertise it any way we can. So,
Yeah.
because I do think there's going to be some opposition or whatever. The request for restraint, because it does kind of go against what our comprehensive plan was. I mean, not go against it, but it expands it, I would say.
Yeah, it certainly expands it, but it is consistent with it.
Thank you.
It's not against it. It's certainly part of that conversation under the mixed-use guidance. Not the zoning, but the guidance.
Right.
I think what the intent was 10 years ago when they wrote that was, our future vision needs to be flexible, but right now, here's what we want to control. So, my best guess.
Okay, well, again, I'm just asking that we advertise it however we can.
Well, it'll be on our website, it'll be on our, it'll be in the newspaper.
You'll be posting on Facebook, right?
I won't be, but you are welcome.
That's a no.
And you guys were gonna reach directly out to some of the Airbnb.
Yeah, yes, and so the one I had hoped to reach out to, I don't think I will be anymore, but there's a long story there.
Okay.
So if you know anybody, I mean, everybody's gonna see it. You know, so you're gonna hopefully we'll get some operators, and then I'm sure we'll get the people who don't like them, and then we'll get the people who do like them, so. Or it'll be crickets in here, one of the two.
We love those meetings, don't we?
No, I think you're gonna have two from a street because they got, I think it's like 2 or 3 of them.
Excellent.
So
Yeah, if they're willing to show up and speak pro or con, whatever that means,
yeah, maybe. No, because they never did. They just rent it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
So it could be a longer meeting, but which is okay. That's why we're here.
Nothing else
My only
at this point?
comment is, and I don't know how we do this, but we had some conversations around the the possible alignment of the comp plan to the mixed use like guidelines. I don't know if we can take an action or otherwise to follow up in 2 years when we do the comp plan, but make sure we
Well,
don't lose that.
I will tell you this, the city is basically starting its comp plan process now.
Okay.
We applied to the Met Council for, because that is our entity the city has to submit our comp plan to, as well as our neighboring communities. We have to have it adopted by October 2028. So it's usually a year and a half long process. And
Are you hiring somebody to?
no,
No?
it's you folks and me.
Oh,
Well, don't panic, because it's an upgrade. It's not the original plan. The original plans were the nightmare. So,
Yeah, it'll be
I had to do a
fine.
lot of documents for comp plan in my career, so.
Yeah, you guys, and so it's an 24-month process.
Yeah.
Met Council just approved our budget and approved our work plan. And so if we turned this into them and they liked it, then we got some money.
Yeah.
And so I found out today we got some money. So, but we will have the city engineer involved
Mhm.
for the water, sewer, and storm elements. And we will have some help for some of the mapping. And like the images I showed tonight, a lot of that's done by WSB, which is a consulting firm. You've probably all heard them before. And then some of those zoning things and the mixed use and those blue charts, those are just excerpts from the comp plan. So I'll give you all copies then. And what do you want to see change? And somehow we got to get the community involved.
Right.
You know, and do you do that on a Saturday morning, and do you do that on a Wednesday night? You know, it's all part of it.
Yeah, in the last time, I thought it was good, and we had a lot of input. And Mr. Terry did a great job of chairing us through it.
What are we talking about, the comp plan?
Yeah. You were the chair for the final year of it.
I don't even remember.
You don't? I do.
I mean, I remember going through a lot of these, but I
Yeah,
didn't
true,
remember
true.
chairing it.
Well, yeah, so it's coming at you. It's starting, basically, starts August 2026, and it's an 24-month process, so.
Sounds like he's gonna be able to walk us through it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
yeah.
That sounds optimistic.
Yeah, so that's what I know, good or bad.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a
Yes.
second?
I second that.
Great. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So the meeting is adjourned.